I had written a book previously. And the goal of that book was actually to try to put a definition of what a brand was. I was telling a friend a story the other day. I spent the first 8 years of this company, when we started it, basically saying to everybody what a brand wasn't. Like, it's not your marketing. it's bigger than that. And a colleague, in a very constructive way, pushed me and said, all right, it's about time you start telling people, therefore, what it is, not just what it isn't. And that's really what the first book was all about, was what is a brand? And that's why we called it, the title of the book was my definition of what a brand actually was, which is the value of a promise consistently kept. And that breaks into nice little chunks that help you tell the story. So I wanted to build off of that with the second book. Because, once you have, as a leader, have a perspective that your brand is an underleveraged asset that you can use to help not only grow your company and grow it in a sustainable, profitable way, but you can also use the company to help organize your organization. How does it focus it? How does it set priorities? How do you plan? What do you invest in? When do you invest in these things? What kind of returns should you expect? All of those are obviously business questions that any business owner or CEO has as a very important set of questions that they carry around all the time. Well, what I wanted to do with the second book is say a hidden gem that might help you with those questions is this underleveraged asset called a brand. So now that you understand or align somewhat to looking at a brand differently, how do you now manage it and how do you grow it? So it was almost like the second part of an ongoing story, because the other point that I really try to make in that second book is that the accountability for running that brand is yours. It starts at the top. It's the owner, it's the CEO, it's the C-suite, the senior executives of any company. And that could be a small business, that could be a huge corporation. If the leaders don't view the brand as an asset, it will always end up being punted off as a marketing effort to the marketing department. And in doing so, you lose the opportunity that your brand provides you. And you flush value down the toilet, to be quite honest. If you believe that your brand is an asset, what this book tries to do is say, so therefore, what does that mean about how you need to manage that? And how does your organization manage it in order to do it in the most efficient and effective manner? So it's a nice follow-on to the first book.
It's very interesting. It sounds as if you're building off of, the first book, defining brand, making sure there's that clear understanding.
Yep.
And this gets into the so what, how are we actually using that new definition, that new framing?
Yeah, and I've got to admit, the first book was probably, I would call it more storytelling. Anecdotes, things that I found over the course of a long career, things that I might have done, a couple of things I did well, and a whole bunch of things that I didn't do well, that helped me understand and create this notion of what a brand was. When it got to writing this second book, I wanted to make it more fact-based. It's probably something that I would say is a good reference book for senior executives, but also something that the business schools, I'd like to see them use it to help inform that next round of business leaders about this wonderful opportunity they've got and what they have to do in order to manage their brand as an asset and as a business system. But to do that, you have to have a lot of data. So we spent 4.5 years researching and writing this book. So this wasn't something you do in your spare time. It was quite an ongoing effort. We had 4 MBA students who worked with us for just over 2 years, developing the necessary data and doing the fact-finding and the checking against the hypotheses that I'd laid out. And in some cases, we had to change those hypotheses because the facts didn't support it. So this book is much more fact-based and more case studies, proof points to the points that I try to make, whereas the first one was maybe a little more storytelling to get you interested.